Hello and welcome to the Here and Now, where we provide structured summaries of current affairs and happenings. In this video, I'll be talking about if and how each of the big tech CEOs have spoken out about the Israel-Hamas war following the events of October 7th. We will go through a quick summary of key arguments for and against CEOs speaking out on sensitive geopolitical issues. Then we'll go through what each of the big tech CEOs have said about the Israel-Hamas war. Specifically, we'll look at statements by the CEOs of Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet or Google, Amazon, Nvidia, Tesla, and Meta. To kick off, let's talk about whether CEOs should be speaking about sensitive geopolitical issues in the first place. The key arguments that they should be speaking out are, firstly, they have a moral imperative to do so, and also, to be an effective leader, they have a corporate social responsibility to do so. Secondly, there are surveys that show employees and customers increasingly expect corporate leaders to speak out on social and political issues. And thirdly, from a business sense, most sensitive geopolitical issues, by their nature, also impact their businesses directly or indirectly, and so it is part of their jobs to have a view and lobby for the company's position. On the other hand, arguments against CEOs speaking out on sensitive geopolitical issues are, firstly, sensitive geopolitical issues are complex, and it is not the place of CEOs to speak out on such issues because in a democracy, the people vote at the ballot box for political leaders to make decisions on these issues. They don't vote for the CEOs to do so. Secondly, by speaking out on sensitive issues, CEOs would likely alienate a portion of their employees and customers that do not share the CEO's views. They would feel unrepresented, and this would likely impact the business's operations. And finally, CEOs should just stick to doing what they were hired to do, and focus should be on issues that affect the business and its key stakeholders, such as employees, customers, and suppliers. Ultimately, it is a complex decision as to whether CEOs should speak out on sensitive geopolitical issues. They should, however, be consistent in whether or not they speak out, or else they risk being viewed as hypocrites. Since they cannot speak out on every issue, they should have a clear policy on when they will or will not speak out. Also, if CEOs do speak out, it is imperative that back up their words with actions, lest their statements become merely window dressing and empty words. Let's start with Apple CEO Tim Cook. On the Israel-Hamas war, Tim Cook has made limited public statements. It was reported that he sent an email to Apple employees stating his devastation of the horrific attacks in Israel, but the only statement he has made to the media was apparently to the Jerusalem Post, which echoed his sentiments in his employee email. He has not made any specific statements with respect to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Further, neither Tim Cook nor Apple have announced any aid for Israelis or Palestinians. Instead, the only action by Apple reported by the media so far is how it has deleted messages and then halted internal Slack channels for its Jewish and Muslim employees. In contrast, on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Tim Cook did tweet very quickly about his concern for the situation and that Apple will be supporting humanitarian efforts. Apple also took action for the Ukrainian government by halting sales and certain services in Russia and also restricting access to Russian state media apps. Microsoft chair and CEO Satya Nadella has made stronger statements on the Israel-Hamas war. He made posts that he was heartbroken by the horrific terrorist attacks on Israel and subsequently condemned Hamas's actions against Israel with no ambiguity in an interview with Axel Springer. However, Satya Nadella has not made any public statements regarding the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, nor has Microsoft made any announcements about providing aid to either Israelis or Palestinians. Instead, and similar to Apple, the only reports on actions by Microsoft is that it has shut down a post by an employee who felt that Microsoft's leaders were one-sided in their support for Israel and oblivious to the suffering of Palestinians. This is very different to Microsoft's reaction to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. With respect to that conflict, Satya Nadella reposted a tweet from Microsoft Vice Chair and President Brad Smith about Microsoft's support for Ukraine and the aid they are providing for Ukrainians. The aid includes $35 million in humanitarian aid and $13.5 million in matched employee donations, cybersecurity efforts, and also free Skype calls for Ukrainians. Moving on to Sundar Pichai, the Alphabet and Google CEO, who has been a bit more consistent in his statements. He has made several statements via emails to employees and social media posts where he has acknowledged the terrorist attacks in Israel and his stance against anti-Semitism. He has also acknowledged the rise in Islamophobia and the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Importantly, Alphabet has announced $8 million in grants to non-profits helping civilians in both Israel and Gaza. Comparing his response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Sundar has been consistent. He has been very vocal in his support for Ukraine in multiple social media posts and how Alphabet and Google are helping Ukrainians. The company has provided $25 million of support for aid relief efforts, cybersecurity support, paused commercial activities in Russia, and restricted the reach of Russian state media apps, amongst other things. Amazon's president and CEO, Andy Jassy, has been less consistent in his approach. On the Israel-Hamas war, he has made posts about how shocking and painful the attacks against Israeli civilians was. However, he has not made any statement with respect to the humanitarian crisis in Palestine, and Amazon itself has yet to announce any actions to aid either innocent Israelis or innocent Palestinians. In contrast, Andy was quick to post about his concern on Ukraine, how Amazon stands with the people of Ukraine, and also how they were supporting humanitarian relief in Ukraine. Amazon has announced it has made $35 million in donations to support Ukraine, provided cybersecurity assistance, removed services in Russia, and provided other assistance to Ukrainians. NVIDIA's president and CEO, Jensen Huang, is in the unique position of making more statements on the Israel-Hamas war than the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is because NVIDIA's employees in Israel have directly suffered from the Hamas attack. Family members of theirs have been killed, and one employee is currently hostage. Jensen Huang has emailed employees to both share the pain of these sufferings and also explain the aid the company is providing. He has also acknowledged that innocent Palestinians need help and that employees can support humanitarian efforts in both Israel and Gaza. NVIDIA itself provided a bonus for Israel-based employees and is planning to raise at least $10 million by double matching employee donations for humanitarian aid in both Israel and Gaza. On the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Jensen has not personally made any public statements, but NVIDIA has suspended all product shipments to Russia and subsequently closed its offices in Russia. Moving on to Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, you are probably aware that he is definitely more vocal in his thoughts than the other CEOs. He has made multiple posts about the situation in Israel and Gaza, both about the Hamas attack and the suffering of the people in Gaza. On actions, he has made Tesla's supercharger stations free to use in Israel and offered SpaceX's Starlink product for international aid organizations in Gaza after the internet there was knocked out. Looking back at his responses to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Elon Musk has also been consistent. He has been very vocal, making several posts both in support of Ukraine and also proposing a controversial peace plan. He has also made Tesla offer free EV charging for Ukrainians in neighboring countries and provided hundreds of Powerwall 2 lithium-ion batteries to Ukraine. Further, his SpaceX company has provided its Starlink product to Ukraine initially at its own cost and then funded by the US government. The last CEO we examine is Meta's executive chair and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. On the Israel-Hamas war, Mark has stated that the terrorist attacks by Hamas are pure evil. He has not personally spoken out about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. However, Meta has stated it has helped to facilitate people who have raised more than $11.5 million for non-profits to help relief efforts in both Israel and Palestine. Meta are also taking actions to address a spike in harmful content on its platforms. On Ukraine, Mark has been less explicit about his position. He did state that it was a massively destabilizing event and an invasion. But based on Russia imposing a travel ban on him personally, it is clear that he supports Ukraine. In fact, Meta has committed $15 million to Ukrainian humanitarian efforts and also facilitated $40 million in fundraising across its platforms for humanitarian relief. In summary, the CEOs of the big tech companies have all responded in slightly different ways to recent geopolitical issues. On one end of the scale, you have Apple CEO Tim Cook, who has been very tight-lipped about both the Israel-Hamas war and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, with Apple also not announcing any donations of aid for either geopolitical issue. Then, on the other end, you have Alphabet and Google CEO Sundar Pichai and Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who are a bit more outspoken on both issues, including acknowledging the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Their companies have also provided or offered significant financial and operational aid to both innocent Israelis, Palestinians, and Ukrainians. Finally, I should point out that it has only been just over a month since the Israel-Hamas war started, so there may be more statements made and actions taken by companies and CEOs in the coming weeks and months on the matter. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps keep you informed.